This is the Horse Radio Network.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the number one horse podcast in the world. Here's your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
I am Coach Jen from Ocala, Florida.
And I'm Mary Kitzmiller from Kemp, Texas, and you are listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for, what is the date today?
December 12th. Yeah.
I didn't write it down, so of course I don't know. December 12th, episode 2329. Today's show is brought to you by Horseware. Good morning, Horse World.
What is your favorite day of the week?
You never stop learning. You never stop understanding. It's more in depth than just riding a horse. Exciting, knowing that for the rest of my life I could work on this and I'll never stop learning.
Yay! Welcome back, Mary. Mary is here the second Thursday of every month. Regular listening folks know that. And what we do, Mary and I get together. We kick Glenn out of the office. We sit down and we geek out about horse training, English, Western, doesn't matter the discipline. We just geek out about horse training in general, and we answer listener questions. And this month, we also have a guest coming up. Tell me who our guest is today.
So we have Tammy Pate, who is one of the founders of a really cool event in its second year, I believe. It's called Art of the Cowgirl. And this is a women-centric event. It's a horse sale. They're going to have a World's Greatest Horsewoman Challenge. They have art. It's going to be amazing. I have to miss it because I'm going to be at a Mustang makeover, but I would do, if you're looking for something really cool to do, I believe it's in Arizona. We'll definitely ask Tammy, but it's going to be a really cool, fun event.
Oh my gosh. I heard about this last year. It's totally so, wow. I wonder if that falls near my vacation time. I'll write that down. But anyhow, we're not going to do a training tip this time because the whole show is training tips. So we're going to go straight to our first listener question today. So Mary, tell me what we've got on the plate. What's our first course?
Okay, so we have one from Karina Marote. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And she says, you helped me in July loading my Mustang gelding in the trailer. He loads great, but now he doesn't want to stay in the trailer. How do I help him feel comfortable staying in the trailer? This is a terrific question. And one of the most important things that I tell people when you're working on trailer loading a horse or, any kind of horse with this sort of pulling back, wanting to escape issue. When I load a horse on the trailer, I don't care if I have to be somewhere in 5 minutes. I don't care what's going on. Maybe it's a colt, his first time. Maybe it's a horse with trauma and doesn't, is scared in the trailer. My rule is if he needs to back off, let him. Absolutely every time, 100%, let that horse get off the trailer. This is for a few reasons. One, safety. There have been people who've broken noses, arms, legs because they were on the trailer trying to keep a horse on that didn't want to be there. And let me tell you, if they say no, that's a hard no, and you're trapped in a box with them. So let them out. Or people have tried to slam the door shut on the horse and they came flying out and the door hit them in the face. So it's a safety thing for number one. You are not going to contain that horse if he decides, to explode. You can't force him there. So safety, number one, is going to keep you guys from getting hurt. Number two, a horse like that needs to know it's okay if he needs to get out of the trailer. It's okay. And sometimes just knowing that if I don't feel uncomfortable, I can get out, helps them feel better. So, think about like if you yourself is dealing with something that's really terrifying to you, if you're allowed to approach it kind of, on your own and you can always get away, you feel more confident about approaching something. So, but if someone's going to force you to do something, that's when you're going to fight bite, kick, scream to get away from it. So that's my rule with a horse wanting to back off the trailer. I always let him back off. Always, always, always. If he wants to back off 20 times every time I load him, I'll just keep loading him until he doesn't want to back off. So my thing is, I got him on once, I can get him on again. So I let him back off. I don't punish them once they're off. I just say, okay, get back on. I'm very matter of fact with it. I don't run them around in circles and make them feel bad. I just put them back on, and, right away, get back on. And then I'll let them figure out what they're going to do. If they back off, I say, okay, get back on. But I always let them back off. And then one of these times, that horse is going to get on there and he's going to hesitate and stay there for a moment or two. And when that happens, I still won't close the door on them. If they stay on the trailer, then I back them off and make it my thing. Like, okay, I'm asking you to back off. And at that moment, if it's a training situation, maybe I'll put them away for the day. But if it's, a case I have to be somewhere, I'll give them a moment once I've backed them off the trailer. Let's go graze some grass over here and just let them feel really good. And I will keep practicing this load, unload, game until one of these times they're going to get on and they're going to stay on. And I know they're on there long enough that I can safely close the door. I don't want to have this battle with the horse where as soon as they're on, I have to try and slam the door. So that would be my answer for that question. It's very simple. Let them back off, put them back on again. Let them back off, put them back on again. One of these times they're going to go, okay, I think I can stay on now.
Well, and that's absolutely true. And something that Nigel's taught me all sorts of things because he's the first horse I've had that genuinely came with trailering issues that made me scratch my head.
Ooh.
And we've worked it out for the most part, but I had to step back and figure out, because trailering to us is like get in the trailer, go away. 2 steps, right? But to a horse, there are so many ingredients. And it got to me thinking about it, and taking him to a couple of the little obstacle course play days gave me some light bulb moments.
Ooh.
Would not think this. This is a horse who's utterly broke. You put your leg on him, you do leg yields, you do all sorts of things, right? He's not girthy. He's not fussy about blankets. He doesn't care if the job at hand requires me to give him a little bit of a kick. All that's fine. But when things touch his sides that are not a human and a rider and not a blanket, for example, going through some brush, he is the most goosey, tweaky, oh my gosh, I'm going to jump out of my skin in the earth. He doesn't like the sides of the horse trailer touching him.
Oh,
just
interesting.
Causes him enormous anxiety. Enormous. You don't see it. You don't see him twitch. You don't see him move away. But he stands perfectly in the center of the trailer, and the side, none of the trailer ever touches his body. So for him, it's like, oh my God, I can't move at all. He feels very, very, very confined because he's only got about probably 4 or 5 inches on each side of his body in that stall, in that trailer. So that was an ingredient in his trailering issue, that things shouldn't touch his sides. So I took a scientific learning principle when you have lots of little approximations. So we take every opportunity in everyday life to have things brush up against him, not just when he's moving, but when he's standing still. For example, we have to walk from pasture to barn on a regular basis. And one of the little places we have to walk through has a lot of hangy bushes that are just draped all over the place. And I discovered that he could manage to walk past them if I made him. In other words, you will walk over here and I have to give you cues to do it. But he would go, okay, shoo, I'm past it. Did that for a while. And once we got to the point where he'd walk past it without scooching and gooching, okay, let's walk slow as the things brush up against you. That took a couple of months. Okay, now let's walk slowly and gently come to a stop. So you're standing there and those things are tickling you. Oh my God. Took several months till we got to the point where he'd stand there and he still holds his breath. When he's standing there and those little bits of bushes are touching him, he's holding his breath, which tells me that anxiety is still there. He gets in the horse trailer, but it's a case of I'm getting in the horse trailer because I know I have to, and I kind of hold my breath. Oh my God. So that's an ingredient. Maybe you can find ways to help your horse experience those things when he's not in the horse trailer. Get more comfortable with him. Another thing that he came with is once he's in the trailer, if he can't see out, again, the anxiety and the panic set in. He doesn't need to see his friends. He just needs to see out. Same with his stall. He will not stand in the back of his stall.
Interesting.
Interesting. He's taught me these things. He has tons and tons of anxiety, and he's the kind of horse, because he's been worked with well, he's had a pretty good life as far as his relationships with humans and stuff. He's not generally going to have the giant meltdown, panic, freak out, which he did with horse trailers when I first got him. He doesn't do it in his stall, but yet when I go, wait a minute, he never, ever stands in the back of his stall. And if I go in the stall with him and take him into the back of the stall with me, he'll stand with me. But if I try to tie him back there, all of his focus is back at the door because he's pretty sure the world's going to end. So let's find ways where Nigel cannot see his surroundings while I'm working with him on a daily basis. That's harder for me to do because it's kind of limited, but try to break it down, figure out some of the specific things that give your horse anxiety about staying in that trailer, and find smaller ways that you can approximate that in everyday life and help work through all of that. That's my suggestion. In addition to what Mary said.
Yay. Yeah, really, really interesting with that horse. He reminds me of a horse I have in training that is just the goosiest thing in the whole world. And the two things I did with him that has made him like turn a complete corner. One, I put him on Redmond Daily Gold Stress Relief, which is, I'm not a supplement person. I'm too lazy to feed a bunch of different supplements. And so many of them, like, you know, I think it makes him look better or feel better. I can't tell. But this one is like an exorcism. It expels the demons. And it's anytime I have a horse that's oddly quirky and regular training isn't touching it, this supplement tends to really help. And it's just all it does is it just makes their tummy feel better. That's really all it is.
And who doesn't want their tummy to feel better, right?
Exactly. I think, especially with a horse like Nigel, who I think just even standing around, he's like, stress, 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 stress. So it's always possible they're dealing with an ulcer or just an upset tummy. And you'd be surprised at how that shows up. I've had that affect horses that made them ear shy. You wouldn't think those two things would be related, but as soon as I fix their digestive upset, I could touch their ears. Random. And I find horses like him that are like, don't touch my sides, don't touch my sides. Not just like cinchy horses. It doesn't have to be that they're pinning their ears when you saddle them up, but they're just like, stay away from my sides. If anything brushes me on the sides, I'm going to explode. I find it works great with those horses. The other thing I did with this horse, I think we've talked on the show about human curry comb, which is amazing. It's, long story short, you're just slithering all over your horse bareback. So with this particular horse, when I'd stand on the mounting block, when I'd pet him anywhere, he would stand, he'd be very good, but I could just see the tenseness. Mm-hmm. And I just started doing like these deep body massages with my own body on him. It sounds really weird, but like I just walk up to him and give him a bear hug, and I'd, wrap my legs everywhere and rub them everywhere and hang on him off the mounting block just hundreds of times a day. And at first he did not want me to do that. And then he stood still. So you would think, oh, he's accepting it, but no, there's still the tenseness. And now he goes, and takes a deep breath and lets it all out. And even though I'm desensitizing him to me, it's helped with other things like walking in small gateways and things that make him feel trapped and claustrophobic. Yeah. So just side tangent off that question.
Yeah. That's interesting because with him, it took me a long time to make the connection because curry his belly, no problem. Put the girth on, no problem. He doesn't have all of those classic my sides are sensitive behaviors.
Mm-hmm. But it's with other inanimate things.
It's inanimate objects. Like when we're out trail riding, he'll go between two skinny trees at a gallop and make me freak out and think, okay, I'm going to lose my kneecaps. He doesn't mind that at all. He'll just fly right through because he loves doing that. But to walk along and stop and have things touching him while he's standing still, I don't know if it tickles.
Is he off the track?
He didn't race as far as we can tell. He did go into training. We know that.
I wonder if it's a starting gate thing.
Well, and it could be. He's got gobs and gobs of giant scars on his skin where there were obviously giant holes. And I don't wonder if he was either in a horse trailer or a starting gate, or a gate that was not opened properly. You know how you open the gate and you open the stall door and it's not wide enough and the horse, takes some hide off. Something like that in his life. My friend's
horse punctured his belly with it. He got wedged in a poorly designed divider.
Yeah, something like that in his life that caused him to have PTSD, horse edition, relate to that. But it was just so funny because I'm going, wow, light bulb moment. The confinement, because you go, oh, he's claustrophobic. Well, let's break it down a little bit further. Okay, he doesn't mind being in a stall, but he always has to have his face out of the stall where he can see around. Okay,
that's good detective work.
Yeah, he's okay in the trailer now, but it's a ginormous trailer, and he literally hangs his head and neck out the front. You know how you see the cowboy version on Facebook? Look at this crazy person hauling their horse in the back of their pickup truck with gates tied to the side. He'd probably love that. I have a guard there so he can't get his head and neck out the front of the door because it's a big hole. Otherwise, he would go down the road with his whole head and neck, and it's giant, hanging out the side of the thing. And I look in the rearview mirror, and the nose is constantly poking out like a Labrador. It's like,
interesting. That's fascinating.
Yeah, he is a fascinating beast. But anyhow, so there we go. Maybe that's some help for Corinna to help her Mustang become more comfortable. So let him get out when they get out. So for her, we're loading our horse. At what point, what are some of the things that are going to indicate to you that the horse is ready to have the door closed?
So it depends on the situation. If it is a deal where it's getting dark out and I was at my trainer's barn for a lesson and we got to go home, I will just continue this loading, let them unload game until I look at them and I know they're committed to standing. At that point, I'm like, okay, close the door. We got to go home. But at home, like we have all the time in the world. We're just training. We don't have to go anywhere. It really is just as simple as you look at them and they're not thinking of escaping.
Mm-hmm.
So
I get the whole commitment thing. Yes, their what's the word I'm looking for? Their body shape changes. They kind of either externally or internally, they kind of take a breath and go, okay, I'm here. Yeah, I get that. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, when they walk into the trailer and go, okay, I'm here. And you can walk over and close the back of the trailer without them following you with their spirit.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay.
And if it's one of those things, sometimes the horse will be fine and they're standing and they're standing and they're standing. And then I get the door halfway closed and I see him start to go. I open that door. Get off. If you need to get off, get off. There's what I don't ever want to see you do. And I've done this because I'm an idiot, is continue to try to, you are less than 200 pounds likely, and that horse is, 10 times that. Who's going to win that game?
Yeah.
He's going to bust out of there like the Kool-Aid man. So don't do that. If I start to close the door and he's like, no, I'm not fine. Open it, let him off.
So you have to be able to put them in, walk around to the back as if you were going to close it. And they're like, cool, I'm okay. I'm standing here. And then you have to go, okay, we can put you in. I can walk around to the back and I can move the butt bar and or ramp door. You're cool with that? Oh, I can do it again, and I can do it again, and I can do it again. Yeah, that was one of the things we went through with Nigel because he was the escape. Once he was in, he was out of there. The second he thought he could do it without, and he didn't seem to care if he hurt himself. He did it billions of times and hurt himself anyway. But when I could put him in and I could go around the back and I could move the butt bar, I could close the butt bar, I could make a racket, I could pat his bum. All of those things didn't matter. His feet just stayed there and he didn't make that rock backwards movement. Yeah. And that took a lot of time.
One thing I want to make sure to add to this, and this is a rule I do with all my horses. I never, ever, ever, ever tie my horse with an open trailer door or divider. So I've seen a lot of people load their horse, tie them up, and then go close the divider. And I understand because you're loading by yourself. And, if it's like a slant load or an open, any kind of open trailer, and you load them and you don't tie them, a lot of horses, even though they're not scared, will want to turn around and follow you out. So you want to prevent that. Don't tie them. Because I've had horses that were broke to death. My good old mule Emmett, who's been through hell and back and is amazing, and he's the brokest thing in the whole world. One day, he just decided, while tied, luckily I had a safety tie, he decided, I'm going to back right off this trailer right now. I don't care what's holding me. And luckily I was using this safety tie thing called the clip, which is one of the greatest things ever. And it let him pull slack. So we both didn't die. But I know two world famous, incredibly accomplished master horsemen that have broken arms and legs because they had a horse tied in the trailer. They were going to untie the horse and the horse exploded. And in both cases, the horse was broke, had been hauled everywhere as just a random fluke. But these guys were trapped underneath this horse trying to kill them, and they really hurt themselves.
Yeah, slant load. Yeah, if you have a slant load or a straight load that you have to be inside the stall with them like that, can be very dicey. Yeah, you want to keep in mind that things could always go wrong.
Yeah, I have a long lead rope, and if I don't have my little clip safety tie thing, I load them up and I run the lead rope like kind of out the window. So if they pull back, it's just going to pull right through. I make sure it's not hooked on anything. It could get caught on anything, but it gives the illusion of, hey, you're tied. Just keep looking forward while I close everything I need to close. Yeah. But once they're loaded and I've hauled to my place, I do not open that trailer door or divider until I've untied them. I would rather my horse escape into the parking lot than pull back and be tied and break something, break me, break the halter, break himself. So that's my rule of thumb. And even, sometimes you have a person that's helping you. I may hand them the rope through the window, but I always tell them, if the horse starts to go, let go, because you're going to burn the heck out of your hands. You cannot hold that horse. They're just there to kind of keep the horse's head facing forward so the horse doesn't try to turn around. But I always tell them, if they start to go, just let go. I'll take care of it. We'll catch him eventually.
Eventually, yeah. And if you've done your homework, you should be able to catch them in reasonably short order. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Great, cool stuff. And it's interesting how one topic just falls and leads right into the next. And one of the topics...
We could do a trailer loading podcast because it is just the endless. Yeah, it's great.
Endless. Again, part of the reasons it's endless is because there are so many different ingredients, and not just load your horse on the trailer and go. It's the entire world of horsemanship skills all wrapped into one thing. Because if you haven't done all of them, eventually the loading and trailering is going to go south on you. So there you go. But one of the things we're going to chat about today, and we're going to do something a little bit different. The good folks at Horseware have been sponsoring Mary's episode for quite some time, and it couldn't happen without them. And thank you very much, Horseware. And a lot of folks know that Horseware makes horse blankets, and they make awesome horse blankets, but they also distribute a product called Ice Vibe. And we had a chance to chat with the lady who invented Ice Vibe, and it is so much more than just putting ice on some part of your horse. A lot of research and a lot of science went into this to make it do a whole lot more than that. So we are going to replay this interview we did with the inventor way back in 2016. And when we're finished with that, we will come back. We'll answer some more listener questions, and then we'll be chatting with our guest, Miss Pate. So let's enjoy this.
Well, our title sponsor for this episode, training episode with Mary Kitzmiller every month is Horseware. And we're lucky enough to have Louisa joining us right now from Ireland. And we're going to talk about one of their terrific products it's very appropriate for this time of year and for the competition season. Good morning, Louisa.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, you had told me you were from New Zealand and you live in Ireland, so I can't wait to hear the accent.
Well, I hope it doesn't let you down.
Didn't know if it was going to be a combination of the two or what. Now, you told me that
Not yet.
Not yet. You were involved in the thoroughbred industry. Was that in New Zealand growing up?
Yeah. So basically, when I was at school, the thoroughbred yearling sales were always on during the school holidays. So from the age of sort of 13, I started picking up stud work and doing the sales in my school holidays. And then when I was able to drive, which in New Zealand is sort of 16, it's a pretty good system, I was riding at the track before school. So school holidays was stud work and before school was riding work. So it was pretty full on. But I was eventing up until then. I was riding since I was 3. My mother was a BHS instructor. So it was horses, you know.
Wow, eventer and catch riding at the track. You were a brave girl.
It was very busy. I remember that. And sometimes I get to school and if the car park was full, I'd just drive home because I was done. I was tired.
So now, how did you end up in Ireland because of the horseware job?
No, I actually ended up in Ireland because of Coolmore Stud. So I got a scholarship when I finished school to do equine agricultural course at a college in Australia, Marcus Oldham, and that was sponsored by the thoroughbred industry in New Zealand. And part of that scholarship was when I finished that, I went and worked for some of the sponsors, and the managers were over from Coolmore Stud in Ireland. In Australia at the time, I was doing the Sydney sales, and they offered me a job at Coolmore. And I was 20 at the time, so I thought Ireland for 6 months, that'd be great. Doesn't get any better than that. So I came over to Ireland to work for John Magner at Coolmore Stud, and I loved it. And of course, it's so horsey here, and loved the level of the thoroughbred and everything that was going with it, and just sort of never really got back. And that was 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. That's terrific. And now you're with Horseware, one of our terrific sponsors. And we're going to talk a little bit about Ice Vibe and the different Ice Vibe products, what they do. Now, Mary's a trainer and also been a competitor for many, many years. So now the first question, let's explain Ice Vibe, and then we'll kind of talk about who they're targeted for, who should use them.
Right. Well, a little bit of background of my background and the boots background was from the Coolmore. I went into racing for Aidan O'Brien and then on to other trainers in National Hunt. And what was always frustrating me so much was the scrap heap of thoroughbreds with tendon injuries, shin problems, the pain they were suffering and watching them pull out stiff in the morning, and the fact that there was never enough time to do anything about it. And everything that we had on hand to help them seemed to be about getting rid of symptom. It's always symptom control, using ice, using clays, trying to make their legs feel tight and cold. So as a rider, we would go, his legs are fine, I can ride him. And I was thinking, this is all a bit crazy and we need something to actually promote some healing. These horses that are naturally bred to be out in the wild and on the move are standing in stables for 23 out of 24 hours a day. So with that in mind, I went about trying to develop something that wasn't just about controlling inflammation, that was actually about stimulating healing and keeping these horses going and giving them another career and having something to rehabilitate them with tendon injuries. So the Ice Vibe boot was designed for that purpose, and it combines the two things. So what I didn't want to do was have something that made the legs too cold, which ice does, and it is good at reducing inflammation, but with that it also compromises healing. So I started combining massage and cold together, and we ran studies and spent 3 years working with this and discovered that actually by using the massage and cold, you cooled the leg, you didn't freeze it, you maintained a level of blood flow, and because of the movement from the massage, you actually stimulated healing. So originally it was designed for tendon injuries and shin problems, but we found that by using it, how good the legs actually felt and how much better they would move, that actually here's a product that we can now use daily to repair wear and tear so that you don't get to the stage where you have a tendon. So it was started off as a rehabilitation product and then moved into a, let's think about this and let's prevent that actually happening. And that's what the Ice Vibe is all about. It was a very new concept. It was quite a hard concept to get across to people because most of us just knew about ice. And I'm always delighted now when even the sports industry with the human athletes are now are moving in that direction big time as well. So Rice Vibe is really, it's for everyone. And we worked really hard on the price point to make sure that it's doable. Yes, it's a bit pricey, but it is affordable. I didn't want the product that was just for the elite. I wanted it for the girls and the boys and the kids and the adults that just love their horses. They might not necessarily be able to replace them. The horse might be 20 or it might be 4. And it gives everyone the opportunity to look after their own horse's legs to prevent getting into trouble further down the road.
Now, how does it work?
So another thing I was very conscious about was it had to be easy to use because we all know if things are hard to use, we don't do them. And the other thing is that so many creations that come into our industry, they're not safe for the horses. You have to hold them. You're worried about them getting a fright. They might pull a lead. There are too many cables. Especially working with thoroughbreds, it had to be very practical. So it's a very simple neoprene boot, no different to an exercise boot. It has a massage panel in it with a lithium-ion battery, which is a rechargeable battery similar to what you have in your mobile phone. And with that goes a cold pack that comes out of the freezer. So you take your cold pack out of the freezer, you wrap it onto the horse's leg, and then you put the boot over the top and turn it on. And what this does then is it creates this cold circulation. And it doesn't let the legs get too cold because you're still stimulating that movement. So you are cooling, but you're stimulating the lymph system to help move out inflammation. And more importantly, you're moving the tissues through the massage to help stimulate them to repair. So they turn themselves off in 20 minutes. The horses enjoy them. You can use them without the cold packs, which, you get the diehards who say, no, I never use them with cold. I always just use them as a warm-up for a massage. So they're getting a treatment. You're preparing the legs for exercise. And you can be used either way, which is a good tool to have around,
So I like the idea that they turn off after 20 minutes too, because then you could really go do other things while that's working, and you're not going to have to worry about getting caught up in other things and letting it on for an hour.
Well, and speaking of
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of that, I worked in reining barns for years, and that was one of the things we were always really big on is proper cool down and icing down those legs. And there are a few systems on the market that the price point wasn't very good. You had to be a multi-million-dollar facility to really be able to afford it. Mm-hmm. We had to keep horses in stocks because there were cables and this really expensive piece of machinery. And even then, with me standing there with a horse in stocks, it would come apart. The horses would pull on the cables, or they'd be too nervous to stand in stocks because that's pretty nerve wracking for a young horse. And so I'm looking at this, and this just looks obscene. This would have made my job. I would have gone in so much earlier at night if we had one of these. Yeah, so much easier, and it looks. I like how it looks a lot safer than what I've used in the past.
Yeah, and obviously with us having from a thoroughbred background again, they're very highly strung. And, I spent time with horses in ice bins as well, and they hated it. No, I mean, all of us hate standing in freezing cold ice. And we did a really interesting study.
And trying to keep them in and knocking it over and,
exactly. And we did a study where we were using a thermal camera to see how long, and there was actually one of the equestrian colleges in the UK did the study as well. When you start icing horses' legs, if you then return them to the stall, those legs could stay at 5 and 6 degrees, or if you got them cold enough, -2 for quite a long time. So really the only safe way to ice was then to give them a good walk after, because they're standing and they couldn't reboot that circulation in those tendons. So as a rider, you might come in and go, oh, his legs are lovely and cool, but there's no repairing in freezing cold legs. So the thing about the ice is they're happy to wear them because their legs aren't freezing. You can't make them too cold. You can't do damage. You can't restrict circulation. And horses that are sore particularly absolutely love them because they're getting relief from that massage and that movement, which was really important to me being a horse lover,
My wife just sent me a message and said her horse wants the Hawk boots, please. So it looks like we'll be buying some. So now, all right. So that brings up a good point. There are a couple of different models for different purposes. So explain that.
Yeah, so we started with as I said, originally Ice Vibe was to allow riders, once they've discovered that the horses had a tendon issue, that you could then have something to stimulate and aid rehabilitation, that you could create movement while they're standing in, stop their legs getting swollen. And then as they went back to exercise, you had something to put on after to cool them. You had something to warm up the tendon because obviously scar tissue isn't very elastic. Then they went into the normal repair, wear and tear, day-to-day use. And then there was a huge demand for hock boots and knee boots. So in about year 3 of Ice-Vibe being available, we then went on and developed the hock and knee boot. And that was quite a challenge too, because anyone who works with horses knows there's nothing more annoying than putting on a hock and knee boot, going to do something, coming back, and it's around their ankle. Mm-hmm. So we put a lot of time into making sure that they stayed up, and again, the horses were comfortable and they couldn't hurt themselves in them. And then off the back of that, using the Ice-Vibe without the cold packs, we then went on to doing the actual massage rug, the Sports Vibe rug, which is based on the same technology without the cold. And that was the last product we did then, was the actual massage rug.
And we're going to talk about more. I want to talk about that more in the next time you come on, because I think that's its own.
Yeah, sure.
I saw that and I've played with it a bit, and I think that's kind of its own beast. And I want to spend some time on that by itself. You know what is so cool? My wife and I have been in the retail and sports horse product industry for 20 years. And we've seen a lot of products come and go. And 20 years ago, there was not the innovation that there is now. There was a definite period of time in the 90s, from like 95 for a period of time there, that actually from the early 90s, that whole decade was kind of stagnant. There really wasn't the advances. And now we're seeing some tremendous advances. People are putting money into products like Horseware is, and putting money into products that really are making, like Mary said, the $10,000, what used to be $10,000 to accomplish the same thing, you're now making it affordable for everybody. And that is something that we've seen in the last 10 years that we had not seen 20 years before that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as far as innovation goes, one of the nice things about the era we live in now is getting a product to the marketplace for someone like me is actually quite accessible. Now, 20 years ago, for me to be riding racehorses and doing stud work and to go come up with a product and design and develop it and bring it to market would have been fairly impossible. Let's face it, it would have been impossible. But now, companies are looking for new ideas. They're easy to access. You can email. I spent quite a bit of time sampling the Ice-Vibe boots and developing it, and I sent Tom McGuinness, our CEO of Horseware, an email, and he was excited and on board and made it and invited me in, and the whole team invited me in, and they worked with me, and it's been good for everyone. And that is accessible to horse people, and I think it's really important that horse people design products for horses, because there's no point companies thinking of products that might make, a buck or be part of their product range, that if it doesn't solve a problem, there's no need for it. But horse people know the problems we need to solve, and they need to come up with ideas, and they need to bring it to these companies, say, let's bring this to market. And I think that is now achievable in this day and age, and I think that's the difference.
Well, where can people learn more about it?
On the Horseware website, horseware.com. It also has its own website, icevibe.com. And if anyone has any particular questions, Louisa Williams at horseware.com, and I will happily answer any emails or questions. So I spend my whole time doing further product development and looking after our customers and traveling, discussing the product, and more than happy to speak to anyone and answer emails on questions anyone has about the product anytime.
Are you going to be at ADA next month, by the way?
Not sure yet.
Okay.
I have to see that we have a lot of the big events on here as well, so it's just sort of splitting the time.
Well, if you are, we'll look forward to seeing you there.
Maybe in the new year.
We'll look forward to seeing you there.
Fantastic.
If you're going to be there. It's horseware.com is where you can find it. Ice-Vibe is the product, and it's at most tack shops and retail online retailers here in the United States at this point, so you'll find it everywhere, and it looks like we'll be ordering some Hawk boots today, so...
Fantastic.
Well, thanks a lot. We appreciate you being on.
Well, there you have it. I wanted to replay that because, as she alluded to early in the interview, it's such a hard concept to get across when you just see it sitting there on the shelf, but so much more than just ice, and great Christmas present. Just saying.
Ooh, yeah, terrific Christmas present.
So we've got time for one more listener question before we get our guest Tammy Pate on. And by the way, if you want to ask a question of Mary, you need to do two things. First, you need to go to horsesinthemorning.com and click on the auditor banner or link and become an auditor, because that's where Mary goes in and requests questions for her show. And then after you do that, then you become a member of the Horse Radio Network Auditors Facebook page, because that's where we post them. So what's our next question, Mary?
Okay, we have one from Lisa Cheeseman. I hope I pronounced it right. I'm very bad at pronouncing names.
Lisa Cheeseman. There she is.
Got it. Yes. She said, 1, last month you were going to talk about how you transfer your groundwork to being under saddle. So I'm super keen on that question, and it may answer my next one. I have a little mare who I'm starting under saddle. We have done lots of groundwork, but what I notice when she's introduced to something new she's not 100% sure about is her front feet get stuck. Excuse me. Her default in the paddock when I've seen her get stuck when playing/challenge with other horses is to go straight up, not a hop or halfway, always horizontal up. I think that's vertical, but yeah, right. I totally get what you're saying. Yeah. My thoughts are potentially when under saddle, when asked to move forward, she may get those front feet stuck and of course, potentially go up. How would you approach this? And what are some positive ways to unstick those front feet when I'm on top? Well, one, great observation on your horse. And, we can't always predict 100% how they're going to be when we start them, but it is really good to know your horse and really observe their personality and see how they react to different things. So top notch on that. And your concern is very good, even with a horse that maybe hasn't displayed some of these issues. One of the biggest things when you're starting colts is to unstick those feet. So, a lot of things can go wrong when you get on a horse. And one of the things that we can be nervous about is you get on and your horse takes off and runs around or, things like that, or they bolt. And that can be scary. But for me, even scarier is I get on the horse and I can't get them to move because they're stuck in the ground. And if I stay up there and I increase pressure until I'm having to wallop this horse to get him to go, usually those first steps aren't very gentle and flowing into this beautiful walk. It's like they stepped on a landmine. And those are things that can happen. Your horse goes straight up into a rear or they explode into bucking. So a couple of things, and this ties into how I prepare them on the ground to transfer to saddle work, is I like to keep those feet nice and loose. Even when I'm desensitizing, I used to be a stickler for if I'm throwing a lead rope at you or cracking a whip or whatever, we're working on desensitizing or sacking out. I used to be very militaristic about keep your feet perfectly still. I wouldn't punish them for moving, but I would keep doing it until they would just stand like a statue. And I've since changed my stance on that because you can get a horse way too dull that way so that you can't get them to move when you're on them because they're so dead broke to bomb proof to everything. So you don't want to completely get them over desensitized. And the other thing is a lot of horses will stand still when we're doing things to them and we look at it and think, and this is like your horse Nigel, you don't see any flinching or reactiveness, but you can just that they're holding it all in. So I don't want my horse to do that either. So when I'm working on things like desensitizing, I let them move. I don't address it too harshly if they move their feet. I'd rather them kind of, pick up a foot, place it in the ground gently, than just stand really tense and, like a statue. So that's one thing that I look for on the ground. So for instance, if I'm flapping a stirrup on a colt. On my Western saddles, I'll flap those stirrups because as they're loping around, those saddles can bang them in the sides, and I want to make sure they're used to that. So I might flap that saddle several times, and then I'll take a quick break and just gently yield their hindquarters. Like keep those feet kind of fluid. Don't get sticky with those feet, and then I might flap the stirrups some more, loosen them up, flap the stirrups, loosen them up, flap the stirrups. So I keep those feet to where I can easily pick them up and put them down. The other thing I'm going to do, whether I'm starting a colt or I am addressing a colt with a known rearing problem, is I'm going to get them really soft laterally. I'm going to make sure I connect their mouth to their feet. So what I mean by that is if I pick up the lead rope or I pick up the rein from their back, that signal goes from my hand to the horse's mouth and it flows all the way down to their feet. So if I tip their nose to the left and say like a hindquarter yield, I should be able to tip that nose and use barely any leg or anything like that. And that horse should just gently yield to that bridle. So I'll do a lot of things on the ground where I can tip their nose one way and get their shoulders to move, tip their nose in a certain way, get their hindquarters to yield. Lots of lateral work that involves moving the shoulder, moving those hindquarters, and softening that rib cage. So teaching them to, yield on the front end and the back end. So turn on the haunches, turn on the forehand. Did I get that right? Yeah. Side passing, leg yielding. You could teach that all on the ground. And many groundwork programs have methods that will help you learn how to do that. I also want to make sure that I can get my horse to move forward easily. So when I'm working them in the round pen before I put that first ride on them, if I ask the horse to move forward and they take off farting and bucking and squirting around there, we got to work on that. So, but on the flip side, if I ask my horse to move forward and they stand there looking at me like, what? And then it takes me like really getting crazy and doing jumping jacks before they'll finally kind of trot around. Okay, I need to work on that too, because if I have any difficulty with that on the ground, oh my goodness. If I have any difficulty with that doing groundwork, then it's going to be 10 times more difficult when I'm on their back. So I work a lot on getting them to move around the round pen easily. That doesn't just mean I point and you take off and gallop, or just run around mindless circles. I mean, I'll work on, can you walk? Can you trot? Can you canter? Can you fast canter? Can you slow canter? Can you extended trot? Can you do a nice little Western pleasure jog? Can you do an extended walk? Can you walk really slowly? You can't overdo that stuff. Transitions, because 9 times out, the 2 biggest points of sort of potential danger when you get a colt, when you get on a colt, is from the standstill to the first steps of a walk. So that's one. And then from the trot to the canter. Those are the 2. It can happen anywhere. They can react at any time. But those are the 2 big points that, like, my little internal whatever is in my head that keeps me safe is going, danger, is trot to canter and the first few steps at the walk. So working on transitions to where I can easily just roll the horse into the next gait, and I want him to go forward, relaxed, responsive. I don't want it to where I put a little bit of pressure on and he kicks out and then gallops around 100 miles an hour, because that's not going to be fun to ride. But I also need to easily, like it should be effortless to be able to move him up into the next gait. So I'll do a lot of that in the round pen or at the end of the lunge line. I'll go, walk to trot, trot to walk, walk to canter, canter to trot, trot to canter, canter to stop. You can't do that too much, and that'll be very helpful with a horse that can get sticky. I also make sure I practice on the ground, yielding the hindquarters from all 3 gaits. So I'll have them move around me in a circle, and then I'll pick up that lead rope, tip their nose toward me. They should swing their hindquarters away and face me. And I do that from walk and from trot and from canter, because that's my one rein stop. And then finally, let's say I've done all my groundwork, I've done all these exercises, and I get on the horse. The first steps that I take with a horse when I'm on their back aren't kick them in the sides to go forward, because that's too foreign a concept for a horse when you first get on. They don't understand how to just walk in a straight line forward. Sometimes a horse you'll get on and they just walk right off. I'll take it. I'll let that happen. Once I ask, not like as I'm trying to get on, but but most horses will just kind of sit there like, what's happening? I don't understand. What I do is I tip that horse's nose gently side to side and get them to start loosening, softening that head and neck. And then I get my first steps going off to the side that way. And that helps me have some control over the situation because I've got a little bit of bend in that horse, so I can filter any energy they give me. And it's easier to tip their nose to the side to get a step than just to try to get them to go straight forward. So just off the top of my head, those are a few little things that can help with that.
Perfect. Let's take a little Templeton Thompson break. And then after that, we're going to be chatting with Tammy Pate.
Dirt, every inch of me hurts. Guessing wasn't such a perfect landing. Yeah, I'm still alive, not sure how I survived. It was a hell of a ride till it ended. I guess that's what you get when you leave. You don't always end up on your feet. Oh, there's easier ways I could go. Oh, but deep down inside me, I know I really have something to show when I get back on the road. Oh, yeah. Every now and again, I get myself in the spin, face the true consequence of a fast turn. Every up, every down, every single go round, every fall I have found makes me stronger. So I'll knock all the dust off and then I'll get back in the saddle again. Oh, there's easier ways I could go. Oh, but deep down inside me, I know I really have something to show when I get back on the road. I guess that's what you get when you leave. You don't always end up on your feet. Oh yeah, there's easier ways I could go. Oh, but deep down inside me, I know I really have something to show when I get back on the road. Yeah. Oh, but deep down inside me, I know I really have something to show when I get back on the road. When I get back on the road, yeah.
Templeton Thompson. You can find all of her music at TempletonThompson.com. You can also find it on most of your favorite music downloading sites like Spotify and iTunes. And now it's time for Art of the Cowgirl. Take it away, Mary.
Awesome. So for those of our listeners who are not familiar, what exactly is Art of the Cowgirl?
So Art of the Cowgirl is kind of twofold. It's an event, which is January 24th to the 26th at the Corona Ranch in Phoenix, Arizona. And at the event, we'll have horsemanship demonstrations, master maker artist demonstrations, such as saddle making, boot making, rawhide braiding. We have live music. We have a women's ranch rodeo and a world's greatest horsewoman event. We have a horse sale. It's just 3 days jam-packed of everything horse related and Western culture. And then the other side of Art of the Cowgirl is our fellowship program. And that's why we're having the event. So the event, for instance, our art auction is all of the items are donated by the master artists. And the sales, the proceeds from our art auction go to fund our fellowships, meaning we open up opportunities for people to apply to go work with master makers and horsewomen. So in our first year last year, we funded 6 fellowships, silversmith, rawhide braiding, boot making, let's see, what else? Horsemanship, fine art, and photography. And so this year we'll be funding 6 more. So that was the whole reason for the public event, was to support the fellowship side.
Awesome. So yeah, we were talking about this in our auditor group about the whole kind of Western buckaroo type aesthetic, like the tack and the, just it's so, I love the whole look. It's just beautiful. The head to toe, from what people living this lifestyle wear to what they put on their horse. And it's really part of the sense of pride that you have in the work that you do and your horse. And I think for years, many feared that some of these things were kind of a dying art and that there'd be no one to carry it on. But I've really seen sort of an explosion of interest in it. And I think it's amazing that you're helping other people learn how to do it and keep that alive. And I want to sign up for all of them because that sounds pretty cool. So another thing that, if correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of unique about this event. So are all your consigners that are putting horses in the sale, are they all women trainers?
Yes. So I wouldn't say they're just women owned, because, we have husbands and wives, families, but all of these horses, we're not a trader sale. So my daughter Mesa is producing the sale, and all of these horses have been in these women's possession for many years, depending on the age. But like, we just will not have a horse that someone just bought 2 months ago and is just going to turn around. We want horses that women have trained, they know the horse, they're safe in any situation. And last year our sale was amazing. And this year, I think Mesa has 28 horses consigned this year and 2 cow dogs, and they're out of this world. I mean, I'm so proud of them.
So this is curated. This isn't just an auction. It's a curated sale where the Art of the Cowgirl comes in and says, you need to, it's not just, this is a horse I bought in order to sell, or a horse I raised to sell. These are trainers who have horses that are looking for their next careers.
Yes. So, for instance, Carmen Buckingham, who had a horse in the sale last year, she's one of our presenters this year. She and her husband, they ranch, and that is part of their business. They ride horses, they make good horses to sell. But what I'm saying is our sale, we're just being very careful that these are quality horses that are being represented truthfully how they are. So I'm just saying that we're not, if somebody just bought a horse 2 months ago and said, hey, Mesa, I want to put this horse in your sale. Mesa said no. She said, call me next year. Ride the horse for a year. Yeah. So I'm very proud of her for that. And the horses, we've had so much feedback from people who bought horses last year. with the success that they're having with the horses. And the thing that Mesa has done that I'm proud of is they're videoing all of these horses. We're giving potential buyers, the girls, information, call them, get to know these girls, get to know their horses. So we're trying to tell the story and make sure that the horse fits the buyer, you know.
Well, tell me a little bit
when
more
it
about
comes to horse sales. Oh, sorry.
I was curious about because I don't want to run out of time. Tell me a little bit more about the competition part. Dive into that, Mary.
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh. So last year we had, because the whole event is to honor women in the industry. And, you know, ranch rodeo is a big deal in the West. And there's usually, you know, one or two girls on a team. And then there's sometimes they have, you know, women's ranch rodeo teams. But we really wanted to showcase these gals because they are handy. So last year, Mesa produced a ranch rodeo. We had 23 teams. This year, she had to stop entries at 40 teams. And we also added a World's Greatest Horsewoman event. And, you know, we had this idea, let's hope we get 25 entries. We opened entries, and in 10 minutes, we got 73 entries.
Holy
so
moly.
Our winner for the World's Greatest, which is 4 events, they cut, they go down the fence, they rein, and they steer stop. And the winner of that event gets to go compete in Fort Worth in March at the World's Greatest.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm so jealous I can't do this event.
Yes, we're so proud of it. So it has just exploded. And so those 2 events, we have preliminary rounds at the South Buckeye Arena. It's about 30 minutes west of Phoenix. And then the short round, our top 10 World's Greatest and our top 4 ranch rodeo teams compete Saturday at Corona Ranch in the short round event.
So just in case we do have listeners that ride English and might not pick up on the terminology, when we're talking about cutting or taking we're taking a cow down the fence. So this is like, you know, kind of a stock horse events and steer stopping. Yeah. And so it's roping, it's herding cattle, you know, it's cutting a cow out of the herd and holding it and running a cow down the fence and just showing what a really good ranch horse can do. And then the event in Fort Worth is known as World's Greatest Horseman, which is this huge, enormous event. The best in the world compete in this event. So I'm really excited that you're tying those 2 together, because that's something that I've had on my bucket list, even though I don't own, I have 1 cow, but it's when it comes to like Western usable ranch horses, this is the cream of the crop. And even if you're not familiar with that kind of thing, I think going and watching these women compete is going to be extremely entertaining and really fun.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it is a Western celebration of our culture, but you know, it's for every horsewoman or every horseman, because good horsemanship is good horsemanship. I don't care if you have an English saddle, a Mongolian saddle, or a Western saddle. Good horsemanship is good horsemanship. And Sandy Collier, who is our master horsewoman this year, you know, she grew up on the East Coast riding English and jumping. She was a 3-day eventer. So, and she has won more money than any woman in the cow horse world. So horsemanship is what, and that's kind of the whole, that's why we start with a colt starting demonstration. So it's not a colt starting competition. We have 3 colts and 3 round pens that we're starting off with, and how we work together. So last year we had Riata Branneman and her boyfriend Gabe Clark. We had Luke and Kelly Newbert. This year we have Zach and Ducheneau and his girlfriend Jen Zeller, and Lee Smith, who was our master last year, and our fellowship recipient, Alicia. She's from Canada, will be starting a colt, and then my daughter Mesa and my husband Kurt. So I really wanted to showcase how the foundation of starting a colt is the most important part. The art of horsemanship is whatever discipline we take it in. And that's the exact same as saddle making. Saddle making starts with the tree. It starts with the foundation. And the beauty, the artistry, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is if the foundation isn't right. So
the whole theme of Art of the Cowgirl is, quality. And that's why our trade show is maker oriented. So we want to showcase uniqueness, and we don't want just, a bunch of the same booths, that you just go and just a generic trade show. So for people who just want to come and shop and get great gear, like, this is the place to come, because they're all makers.
And this kind of stuff, you're not buying to last a few years. It's heirloom quality stuff that, you could hang on your wall, but it's usable as well. And it's going to go through some good wear and tear, and be beautiful at the same time. It's the pieces like this. And it's something that you take, years to kind of curate, and you add a little piece to your collection at the time, at a time. And it's really amazing stuff. This sort of maker culture that we have in the Western lifestyle. It's beautiful to look at, even if you don't want to buy it. It's amazing to see, and amazing to see all the work that goes into that kind of thing. Well, that sounds really, really cool.
Thank you. Just to that point, I just saw yesterday on Facebook, our master rawhide braider, Teresa Black. She took a whole day to horsehair hitch a button on the quirt that she's making for our auction. So it is time consuming, but there is such pride in the workmanship and the product when it's done.
Well, this is an amazing event, and it happens. Give us one more time the dates, where it's at, and where people can learn more.
So it is January 24th, 25th, and 26th at the Corona Ranch in Phoenix, Arizona. The preliminary for the World's Greatest Horsewoman and the Ranch Rodeo are the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at South Buckeye Arena in Buckeye, Arizona. And all of the information, ticket sales, fellowship information is all at artofthecowgirl.com.
Artofthecowgirl.com. Well, thank you again, Tammy, for coming on and telling us all about it. I see a great future for this event. I can see it just growing like gangbusters and getting bigger and better every year.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
That was cool. Now, see, I was curious about it last year because that was the first time I'd heard about it, but it's getting bigger and better already. I love the fact that they're bringing in working artisans as well as people who work with horses. It combines both sides of the world.
Yeah, in the Western disciplines, there's sort of these two different veins of how Western horsemanship developed. And one is more centric to the Great Basin or the West Coast. And then the other is more where I'm from, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico. And the history of our country, the history of this land really ties into how these two styles sort of diverged and differed. And, in my area, sort of Indian territory, there was a lot of conflicts, and you needed a horse that you could get trained up pretty fast, do a job really fast, and you need to be efficient. So that's how one sort of style developed. And then over in the West, it was sort of they didn't have as many of the kind of conflicts and troubles, and it was fertile land, and there were, you had time and you had resources. And that's where this beautiful artwork of braiding rawhide, and she was talking about horsehair hitching. That's literally weaving horsehair to make. I've seen hackamores made with it, and this sort of more time-consuming, painstaking process of making this beautiful work. And then the way the horses were trained were much different. It was much different because you had time to develop a horse, and that's where this art of making sort of a vaquero-style bridle horse came from, of spending, a good portion of that horse's life developing him into the kind of horse that could carry a spade bit. And we could do a whole show just based off of that. But I love the culture surrounding it. I love the aesthetic. it's you can see in everything that people in this lifestyle that they wear and how they work their horses. It's all about pride in their horse, pride in their work. And if you're not familiar with any of that kind of lifestyle, I definitely recommend checking out the event. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be awesome. So we're going to wrap it up with that today. A little bit shorter show today. So remind everybody where they can find Mary Kitzmiller, how they can stalk you appropriately, find out more about your amazing artwork because you are an artisan as well as a horsewoman, as well as find out what your schedule is like because you do clinics all over the darn place.
I do. I'm actually on kind of a clinic break right now. I had a bunch going on there for a while, but you can find my goings on out at best place to find me is on Facebook, Mary Kitzmiller Horsemanship. And I got updates on the horses that I'm working with and just where I'm going to be and all of that fun stuff.
There you go. You have updates on your current horses in training. You've got artwork, you've got training DVDs, you've got it all. And thanks again, Mary. We will see you again next month for more geeking out on training. So until then, go ride your horse, right?
Yeah.